Yeah. How you doing? Where you at? What's up? Today is July 28th, 2023. Halfway. The summer is halfway gone. I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy about it because, it's a drag. Your girl's home for the summer. And I'm having an okay summer. I always plan things and go out, Usually I go on vacation, but not this year because your girl had credit card bills to pay. And I just don't want to spend no money like that, So I'm like, my son going on a cruise. Remember I took him on a cruise last year for those of y'all who follow me. Also like and subscribe. If you like what you see, like and subscribe. Yes. So yeah, last year I took him on a cruise. I did not like it. He's going on a cruise with his father's family. All I can do is pray. He's like, Ma, me and my cousins, we gonna do our own thing. I said, no, stay with your older cousins, because he has older cousins. I said, y'all all need to stay together. Do not separate. I don't like Carnival Cruise. It's very ratchet. It's very ghetto. It's very limited. The pools are small. It's like me and the white people, we were not happy. It was a very horrible experience. I did not like it, and I would never do it again. For me to do a cruise again, I gotta be like really old and bored and alone, and I just want to get away. It gotta be like I'm really broke and I just want to get away for 8 days. I can't see myself doing another cruise, especially Carnival Cruise. Like, it was ratchet. And then it's like they have the same things. One thing I don't like about the cruise is like the same thing over and over again. I don't like redundancy. Like, if I'm on vacation, I like to do something different every day. I don't want to feel like I'm in a rut doing the same thing every day. Like, I don't like that at all. Like, they had bingo, they had different restaurants, they had the bars and stuff. They had a lot of trivia games, and it was the same thing every day. They had the country thing. They had the comedy show. The good thing about the comedy shows, though, it was different people and it didn't like repeat itself. So that was the good part. That was the best part of the cruise to me, the comedy show. So yeah, they mowing the lawn outside. But today I wanted to talk about some serious stuff. I wanted to get a little bit serious today. I just wanted to, I don't know if, where it comes from or where it stems from, but we as a black community, we have to start to be aware of problems in our community. And when I say that is, you have too many people that are delusional. You have too many people that are in denial about certain things. And I could admit at one point I was. So a few months ago, or maybe a few years ago, I feel like it might have been pre-pandemic. Sammy, the R&B star, he wrote on Facebook that black women need to stop being baby mamas. And at first I wasn't offended, but I just felt like that was just too general of a statement. And I was like, yeah, I'm a single mom, baby mom by choice. Like, I didn't want to be with my child's father. That was my choice. But I was saying, you have a lot of women that I know personally that wasn't their choice. They actually wanted to make their family work, and their men just didn't want them. And I can understand why, because some of their personalities were just really crazy. It's the same thing. I have very good reasons why I didn't want to be with my son. Like, anytime, and I had put that in the thing, I was like, anytime somebody don't want to be with their child's parent, trust and believe it's for very good reasons. It's not just because, well, they look bad or they ugly. No, it's because they're ugly in the inside. And we don't see what that person went through, or we don't see what that person sees, And I didn't have to be in a relationship to know that he just was not the one. I was young, I made my mistake, and I learned from it, to be more selective in who I sleep with and to make better choices, right? Unfortunately, you do have black women especially in the ghetto and in the projects and stuff, women who keep getting pregnant by randoms and the fathers are not around. That's very, very common, and that's an issue in the Black community. And so the newest topic on Instagram, they was talking about welfare in the Black communities, and they're saying how, oh, they blame welfare for separating the Black community. Listen, you cannot blame welfare, and this is where the delusion comes in. So of course somebody wanted to comment and say whatever and say X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, my parents are married, and nobody's on welfare in my family that I know of, but I do know certain family members that, yes, they are welfare kids, recipients. And just in general, there wouldn't be any need for welfare if those fathers were financially stable, or if the fathers, so basically this is the narrative that to receive benefits, the father cannot live in a home. And I agree with that, because if you have a man at home, you're taken away from the single mother. You're taken away from, that's just like with me. I am not with my son's father. However, him and his family, whatever my son needs, he gets, right? If I have an emergency, I could go to his family and say whatever. So I'm blessed in that regard, right? So why would I have to receive benefits and I have everything that I need for my son? But you have women that they don't have it like that, right? They don't have financial support from anywhere, so they have to go on welfare. I was watching an episode of Ricki Lake. Ricki Lake is now on YouTube, in case y'all didn't know, and there was an episode about welfare, and it was she's a Black woman. She had 2 or 3 kids, right? She was married, and she showed her apartment, and it didn't even look like a studio. At least has like a bed space and a dining room space. She didn't even have that. She had like a kitchen, and it looked like they were sleeping in the kitchen. Like, I don't know what was going on. And I'm like, why do you need a man to live like that? And that's the question. Like, so people are out here blaming welfare for what it did to Black families, but at the end of the day, Good Times, I don't really like that show because it's depressing, but the good thing about Good Times is John Amos, right, the one that played the father, they were not on welfare, right? John Amos went to work every day and provided for his 3 kids and his wife, Florida, right? So if you have a man in the house that's working, right, and he working whatever, you shouldn't need benefits. And if you need the benefits, what do you need him for? That's the part that I'm trying to understand. So they feel like, oh, that's they blame the welfare system for dividing the Black family. That can't be the reason, because the reason why that woman is in the welfare office to begin with is because he's not holding his weight financially, essentially, right? Now the Jews, what they do is they have husbands, but they put down single to get the benefits, right? So they say, oh, all races are on welfare. It's not all races. It's Jews, whites, and Blacks predominantly, right? You might have a few Indians, but most Indians and Asians, they don't go on welfare. That's just it's a fact. They don't go on welfare, right? It's the Jews, whites, and Blacks that generally go on welfare. Black people, when they go on welfare, they actually need it. White people, what they do is they call it subsidy. So you'll have a white person that has a mobile home, a trailer park, they'll have a bunch of things going on, and they'll have welfare just to, have something extra. You do have white people that do need welfare, but they use it a little bit differently. Black people, they actually are using it and actually need it, right? So that's why I'm confused as to They like, oh, the welfare system divided the black community. It was not no welfare system that divided the black community. At the end of the day, that's selfish as hell to be accepting benefits and you have a whole man who's viable and physically able to go to work. You know, that doesn't make sense to be married and then on a Ricky Lake show, she said he was working part-time at McDonald's. Why is he working part-time? He should be working full-time, overtime, doing what he need to do so you don't have to be on welfare. You get what I'm saying? Like, and I guess for me, the reason why I think the way I think, my father always worked and paid all the bills. I never had welfare. But I could understand a woman who may need it because she's not getting assistance from the man that made a baby with her. So I do have empathy. And I think a lot of the problems in the black community exist because nobody wants to acknowledge them. Right? We have pedophilia and molestation and fatherless homes and fatherless families because we don't want to sit down and talk about issues. Like I was thinking about, a lot of people who, have with the family functions, everybody has like an Uncle John or Uncle William or Uncle whatever, and he's passed out drunk, right? Or has a drinking problem. Nobody stops and says, well, maybe he needs rehab. Maybe he needs therapy. What do black people do? Laugh and ignore. Not knowing that Uncle John is probably, he probably has PTSD and might have a real mental illness. Like, we don't do that. I don't know where it comes from. And that's my question for today. Where does the delusion and the denial come from? Where does that stem from? Where does that come from? That we have become such a proudful people that we can't tackle certain issues. We like, that child doesn't need that. No, your child needs that. If something's wrong with your kid. I'll never forget when my second job, I was pregnant with my son. I was 19. And I was in a daycare working, as I told y'all in a previous video. And there was a lady. She had her grandson. I think she was raising him. And they had 2 floors. They had a downstairs and an upstairs. So I was working upstairs, and so the lady asked me like, oh, how was his behavior? I responded, I said, you really want to know? And she's like, yeah, how's his behavior? I said, he's out of control. He doesn't listen to anyone. You know what she did? She told my supervisor what I said. So my supervisor goes, well, why would you say that to a parent? Why would you say that? I said, she asked me what was his behavior like, so what am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to lie? And she never told me what I was supposed to say. Until this day, I'm 34. What am I supposed to say? If you're asking me your child's behavior. Now, me, I'm very big on, I'm not telling you nothing. Like, after that, I would never go up to a parent and just whatever. But she asked me. She asked me, what is his behavior like? And I told her the truth, and she didn't want to handle it. I said all that to say this is because that's a lot of black people. When you tell them something is wrong, instead of them saying, well, I'll talk to him, or I feel like a normal parent or a woke parent would be like, oh no, I'm gonna get him. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, his behavior has a lot to do with you. You're raising him, and he's coming here acting a fool. That says something about you and the way you're raising him. So I think that's probably why she got offended. And at the end of the day, just on social media, you could tell a lot. So that same welfare recipient post, it's this one girl. Of course, she Googles me. I don't know. People love Googling me. Go ahead, buy the book. She's like, oh, you're an author. I'm like, yes, I am. I said, you're a perfect example of a welfare recipient child because you can't read. Nothing in my sentence did I ever say I. I never said I in my statement. So how can you make the assumption that, oh, because I think, yeah, in my statement, I was like, you have a lot of black men who come into the homes of welfare moms, and they use these women and they leave. It's a known fact. It's a fact. You see a man in, I've been living in these projects for 11 years, and you see it all the time. And it's very sad. You see a woman, she'll have like, I'm the only one that has one kid. I'm like a dinosaur in the projects. So you have a lot of women in the projects that have 3, 4, 5, sometimes up to 9 kids. Yeah. They have a lot of children. They'll have a man in the house for about a year or less, and he doesn't work, and he's obviously using her for her benefits. And then he'll leave and go wherever else he goes. This is a pattern that's been going on in the black community for decades. So when people make comments like, she was like, oh, you lying on black men. You have to look at the great majority. You can't just say, and that's something that I had to stop and think about when Sammy made his statement. I was like, why is he saying that black women are baby mamas? It's like, yes, some of us are, but some of us come from married parents. And other people were commenting, and they made good points. They said, that's your parents. Your parents are married. How many, are your friends' parents married? No. Some of them were, but you have to look at socioeconomic status. Most people that, let's say, are from the ghetto, limited education, they don't get married. They'll have a lot of kids, but they're not going to get married. That's not just statistics, those are the known facts. They'll have 5 or 6 children, and even a lot of people, they be like, what? You're the only child? Because that's like unheard of in the hood, to be an only child. And most people who are an only child, their fathers are not around. So it's not that they're an only child, it's they just don't know if their father has kids. So it's kind of that dilemma. Like, I have a family member who, she was raised the only child, but she never met her dad. So she might have siblings, but she doesn't know. So, or whatever. But yeah, you have a lot of that in the hood, where you might have somebody with one kid, and then that father has, other children that he doesn't take care of. Like, DMX is even though DMX was a rapper, he's an example of like what goes on in the hood. He had like 20 kids, and that's very common in the hood. Very common. That has nothing to do, nobody's hating on black men. This is just something that is a problem in our community, and it keeps happening because people are delusional. We don't want to talk about why. Let's talk about why black women feel like they need to have children to, because and then somebody said it, why do black people have big, gender reveals and baby showers and not enough weddings? Because a lot of the times those women know that the man that they love, that they having children with, like I had a coworker like that. I just couldn't understand why she was spending all that money on a shower. And it wasn't until I got to the shower that I really understood what it is she knew that they would, she got 3 kids for him. She knew that they would never be married. But the shower was just a moment for her to celebrate life. Because at the end of the day, it's a new life. So you're celebrating that the best way you can. They know. And somebody said it on social media too, to kind of be mean, but it's true. Like, they know that they never, it's not in the cards for them. They gave up on getting married. So it's like, let me have this big lavish baby shower. So, and baby showers are huge in the hood. Huge. Really, really huge. So, but yeah, so, another thing I wanted to talk about, and this is something very important, and I want all my millennials for y'all to stop and think about stuff. And if y'all have daughters, y'all have to be aware of the creeps. So cousin, you know, the Instagram lady, whatever, she calls her cousin Jasmine or cousin whatever, but she's dark skinned, she wears braces and short haircut. She's like the mama Instagram. So I saw her last night at Broadway Comedy. Very funny lady. But one thing I loved about her stance is her rawness and her authenticity. Like, she's so authentic, she's so real with it. She talked about, she has one kid and she's like, that's all I need, I don't want no more. And she talked about she had abortions. I hope she didn't have that many abortions. She said she had 8 abortions. I'm like, oh no, that's too much. Use a condom. I'm like, I hope I never have to have an abortion. That's horrible. I don't think any woman wants to have an abortion. It's just something that has to be done because you kind of know, okay, this dude not gonna stick around, whatever. But she was talking about that. But one thing that she said that stuck out to me is she started talking about, like, she graduated high school in 2003. I graduated 2007, so she's 4 years older than me, so she's 38. I remember she was talking about high school. She started talking about R. Kelly and started talking about the topic at hand. She was like, when she was in high school, 16, 15, whatever, she had a 32-year-old boyfriend. And he had a car, and he lived in the basement of his mama's house, and she made it comical. But the point that she was making is, back then it wasn't looked down upon to have an older boyfriend. And I remember I was telling somebody this the other day. I was like, yeah, I remember girls in my school who had boys to pick them up in their cars. And I remember being in high school and men knew that I was I had my uniform on. So a grown woman not gonna have a uniform on. Come on now. I didn't have like the traditional book bag, but I had the bag to the side. Like, you could tell I was a schoolgirl, right? And I always had a young face. Like, see my face now? So imagine how my face was super, super young looking back then. So you could see I'm a schoolgirl. Yeah, I was a little tall. I've been the same height since 7th grade, 5'7". So I've always been tall. So, guys knew that I was in school and tried to holler at me. So I remember those days. I remember people, for me, I wasn't ready to date or anything like that in high school. The boys in my high school were just really immature and not attractive. And then the guys that tried to holler at me outside school, I felt like they were creeps. I knew that I wanted to have sex with a man, because that was my whole thing. Like, when I was 18, it was so funny to me because that's exactly like when she was talking about losing her virginity and stuff. I was like, wow, a lot of us could relate to that. In the basement. Well, my dude, he was 23. I was 18. I was legal. But she made an excellent point. She said a lot of people that 14, 15, they lost their virginity to these grown men. She's like, girl, that wasn't your boyfriend. That was your molester. And everybody started laughing, and I was laughing too. But these are the problems that's in the black community, right? She talked about how, she was in a lesbian relationship and she used to kiss girls and stuff before she was in a full-blown lesbian relationship. And she joked around and said, her friends would be like, oh, you're such a good kisser. She was like, her uncle taught her how to kiss. Again, it's made to be a joke, but these are the issues that's in the black community. Molestation, incest. These are real topics that are not discussed in the community, and I just wanted to touch up on that. R. Kelly is not, R. Kelly brought a lot of things to light, But like she said, that this is nothing new. This has been going on. And then she also started talking about toxic relationships. She was like, they got a playlist. So she started playing Fantasia, When I See You. I do not like that song. I feel like Fantasia is just too happy in that song. I like songs like Free Yourself and Hood Boy. I love that song. You know, I don't like Hood Boys, but I love that song. You know, Fantasia, she has a lot of good songs, but that song, When I See You, I know the words because I've heard it so many times, but she's like playlist for toxic men #1. So, and then the next song she played was Can We Talk. It's funny because Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk, that's the only song that black people that we know, you know. Some people don't even know that that's Tevin Campbell, but they know, Can We Talk? The whole audience was singing. It was such a good moment. But the topics that she was talking about on hand, molestation, dating, you know, and it's true. A lot of girls, even today, if you have a 15-year-old girl and she's dating an older guy, you can't tell her nothing. Oh, by the way, he using you, whatever. No, he ain't using me. That's my boyfriend. Girl, he using you. You know, and yeah, it's true. That's not your boyfriend. That's your molester. There's no reason why a man in his 20s should ever look at a high school girl like that. Now, it's different if it's like, if he's 20 and she's 17, that's not too bad, or, you know, but a man that's 25 and you messing with a 15-year-old, something wrong with you. Why you don't want somebody your own age? Because a young girl, you can manipulate her, or you could, you know, whatever. You know, so yeah, it's just crazy. It's just crazy that we have all these issues in the black community, but we don't want to admit it. We don't want to say. And I'm so happy that even though she's a comedian, she was able to come out and say and admit that no, he was a molester. You know, he was wrong. He was 32. I was, you know, she was 15. She's like, I was 15, 16, and this man knew I was 15, 16. He's a molester. You know, that's not your boyfriend. He's a child pedophile. Let's call it what it is. You know, it's no romance and, oh, he loved me so much. And no, that man was a pedophile, you know. And it's scary because the R. Kelly thing, and that's what she was saying. She said this whole R. Kelly thing, it really makes you stop and think about almost all your relationships with guys that were a little older and they knew you were young, and it's like it didn't bother them. You know, you have men that even lie about their age to get with a younger woman. Now that's something weird and different, you know. But you got some guys that go as far as that. Now, some girls lie about their age, but most girls who lie about their age, it's not no great difference. They'll just say that they legal and they 15, like, you know, whatever. But not no drastic 17, 15 year difference. So they could, you know, yeah. But let's call it what it is. Predator, creep, molester, you know. And yeah, this is just one video. I'm just one YouTuber, but that's important, you know, to. And I remember talking to a friend about it a few months ago, and we were talking about, you know, I was just telling him, because he had a father at home too. I had a father at home. I said, but most black people don't. It's just a known fact. A lot of black people grew up without fathers. If we don't start talking about the issue, how can we attack the problem? Right? Then you have back in the days where a lot of our grandfathers, they did the disappearing acts. That was like very, very common back then, where men would disappear for weeks and sometimes months at a time. That's not being a father and a husband. Being a father and a husband is 365 all year round. It's not when you feel like it, and when you get stressed or bothered, you just want to be gone for weeks and months at a time. And shame on our mothers for tolerating stuff like that. And it happened to my great grandmother and my grandmother. You know, disappearing acts, be gone for weeks and months at a time. These are the issues that we've been dealing with in the black community. You know, who is number one in graduating college? Black women. It's a positive thing, but yet it's not, because we are the only race of black women that we have to be educated, we have to work, we have to take care of ourselves, because we can't rely on our male counterparts to do so. It's an issue that needs to be discussed. Why is it that when a black woman wants to be a housewife, it's looked down upon? It's like, you know, no. If that's what she want to do, her husband should be able to provide that. Period. It shouldn't be up for discussion. It shouldn't be looked down upon to say she's lazy. Indian women are not called lazy. Chinese women are not called lazy, right? Now, granted, a lot of them are helping out. When you go to a 99-cent store, you see the man there, and you see the Indian lady at the cashier. But most of them, you could tell, are young and probably don't even have kids yet. You know, so, and sometimes I ask them, you got kids? No. They be the daughters and aunties and stuff. The nieces, matter of fact, you know. But we gotta do better as a community, you know. They got something called Diary of a Tired Black Man, and it's excellent, and it does show things from a male perspective. But the reality is, black women have to work too hard to get where we are. Way too hard. Too many black women put men through school. Like, what is that? Way too many. It's not just on the movies. This is a reality. Too many black women, you know, we're helping our men to get slapped in the face at the end. You know, a lot of people saying, oh, welfare destroyed the black community. How so? When the black men, they used women and then they leave and go make another family. And though, you know, you got some black men that even have the goal to get married and make another family when he made 3 kids with a previous woman. And that woman has to go on welfare because who gonna watch her kids while she go to work? Now you have a lot of women, a lot of black women, that they start off on welfare and then, but they don't stay there. They, you know, whatever. But some, what people don't realize is people become overwhelmed. People, a lot of people, they talked about it on Trap Queens, and I'm so happy that they talked about it because they need to make it go viral. There was a particular case where the girl, I think she was from Chicago, or she might have been, was it New York? No, it wasn't New York City, but she was like from Chicago or something. From the crack era, and her mother was on drugs. And she was late paying rent. And she had to sell drugs to go pay the rent because her mother was financially irresponsible, right? And so, but the part that was shocking to me, and I learned something. Her mother was not always a crackhead. Her mother was a nurse. And what happened was her mother got laid off. That's the part that they don't tell you about the crack era. All they tell you is that all these African Americans, black people, was on drugs. That's all they say, right? That black people was just bums out here taking crack. And then we meet, I know way too many people who was raised by their grandmother because of the crack era, because they lost their mom to drugs. Their moms are alive, but on drugs, you know, and a lot of people want to blame the crack era. And true, but what people don't know is a lot of those crackheads, they used to work. They got laid off, and they became overwhelmed. It's a serious thing. If you don't have support, if you don't go to church, church is more than just a religion. Church is literally a support system where you could talk to people and rely on people for common sense. Okay, when you're raising a child or children, you need that encouragement from something, from family, friends, church, something. And what was going on in the crack era is you had all these people, but they didn't have any support, right? They was working. It was a big recession in the 80s. You know, my mom got laid off. And then luckily my father, he got lucky. He started working for the police department. But a lot of people was not lucky. A lot of people lost their jobs and went on drugs, right? And that's what happened with one of the Trap Queens on BET. That's a good show, good series. And that's what happened. Her mom was a nurse, and she lost her job, got laid off, and went on drugs. You know, these are issues we don't talk about in the community. We just talk about like, oh, people just went on drugs. Like, no, you know. And that's what happens, you know, that's what happens. But those are my thoughts. And, you know, I always say, if you see something, say something. I know a lot of young people listen to me. If you are in a relationship with an older man, stop it. It's not cute. You're 15, 16, you have your whole life ahead of you. Just know that he does not respect you. He does not love you. He is using you, okay? And yes, to my parents out there, you know, it's good to talk to your teenagers that's around. You know, with my son, I always ask him questions. Sometimes he's closed off, but I'm always asking him questions. I'm always investigating. Yes, so keep it. My thought for today is keep the conversation flowing. And let's try to tackle our issues and don't sweep them under a rug. And those are my thoughts.